G'day legends, welcome back to Behind the Driving Wheel FNQ, the show where the engines roar, the stories roll, and the road goes on forever. Whether you're a pilot of a thumping truck, a mud-smattered 4x4, or a wild set of wheels on two or more, you're in good company here. We're all about the people who live life in the driver's seat. And today we're kicking up some dust, sharing yarns and celebrating every kind of ride that calls the open road home. And a big thanks to our mates with the rubber that keeps us rolling, Tough Tyres Cans. And now, here's your host, PJ.
Thanks again for joining us on another episode of Behind the Driving Wheels FNQ, proudly brought to you by Tough Tyres Cans. I'm your host, Peter Jackson, and look, normally on this show, we go behind the driving wheel, but today we're going behind the bars. Today's guest is a man whose career has taken him from the Australian film industry to Hollywood, working behind some of the world's biggest productions, and now bringing a powerful new feature film to life right here in Far North Queensland. He's a writer, he's a producer and director, motorcycle enthusiast, and the man behind the upcoming film, John the Revelator. If that wasn't enough, he's also involved in an incredible restoration of an iconic machine, a legendary Kawasaki Z1, bringing this classic motorcycle back to life from the dead, preparing it, and now it's going to be one of the stars of the screen. We talk motorcycles, movie making, creative risk, life behind the camera, and one hell of a career journey. Please welcome to the studio, Danial Donai.
Pyro, thank you. Thank you, brother, for having me on this afternoon on your show. I'm excited to be here.
Mate, and we're just rapt to have you here. Daniel, let's do a bit of background and talk about your journey.
Sure.
Mate, your career spans more than 40 years across Hollywood and the Australian cinema. Now, when we look back, what was the moment you realised you weren't going to perform in films, you were going to create them?
I remember that day so well, Pyro. It was back in 1996. I was playing Mr. Freeze on the set of Batman and Robin with Arnold, when our director, Joel Schumacher, read my first action script, titled Indestructible. Man, he was so impressed with the script and the way I told the story. He was the guy who convinced me to move on from Hollywood action to writing and directing my own films.
Fantastic. And like you said, you've worked around with some of the biggest names in film, and like you mentioned, Arnold Schwarzenegger, George Clooney. What's one lesson from those years that still shapes the way you direct today?
Let me think about that. What comes to mind first and foremost was watching Clint Eastwood direct The Rookie starring Charlie Sheen. There were two of the greatest and most memorable lessons for me. First, I asked Clint how he managed his set to work so quietly and efficiently. Look around, all the older crew you see here from my early days in the TV series Rawhide. We all work together as a team, Daniel, like a family of filmmakers. Clint said, I use them on my films to this very day, and this worked for us, like a well-oiled machine. I also love the way Clint would quiet the set. He always started a shot with the quiet command of go instead of action. Then at the end of the take, he would quietly command stop. He usually did one take, then moved on to the next shot. His actors and his crew work quietly, quickly and efficiently. I love that man. And as he helped me shape me as a director to this very day.
Fantastic, mate. That's incredible. And it is, I'd imagine, would be just as a huge family working together over those years. Look, you started as an action performer in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. How did that early experience influence your obsession with practical action and motorcycles?
Well, Pyro, when I was a young lad of 16, I was already addicted to the freedom and the rush of owning and riding a powerful motorcycle. Having the early opportunity to work on Thunderdome and watching the action firsthand was an adrenaline rush in itself, man. Then when I moved to LA in 1986, it was due to me working on the set of Thunderdome that I was given the opportunity to audition for Die Hard 2. I then realised that working on that early groundbreaking film, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, that action and motorcycles brought an audience excitement and thrills to the screen.
Now let's talk about the hero bike from John the Revelator, the Kawasaki Z9, or, as you said, it's the Z1. Is that right?
That's right, Pyro.
Right. Why this motorcycle and what made it the right machine for this story?
Well, back in 1973, when I was a teen, the Kawasaki Z900 was released, forever known in Australia as the Kwaka 9. My Uncle John had purchased the motorcycle, which was taking the world by storm. The sight, the sound of that bike. Man, I was in love for the first time. Not with another girl, but with a badass motorcycle.
I think there was a bit of that going on, Daniel. Look, and you're not taking credit for building it. Your uncle, Lindsay Donai, also known here as in Cairns, better known as Nev the Rev, has just completed the frame-up restoration. How long did the build take, and what was the toughest part of bringing that bike back to life?
Good question. Well, my Uncle Lindsay has owned motorcycles ever since he and his twin brother John were released from the boys' homes back in the 60s. As time went on, he had his first motorcycle shop called Sheridan Motorcycles here in Cairns. He then went on owning motorcycle shops to this very day. So when it came to me choosing the Kwaka 9 for the hero bike, Lindsay said to me he had a first edition of the 1973 Z1 900 in his garage, and he offered that bike up to me as the Revelator picture bike. From that day forth, we worked around the clock for 8 days straight, restoring the beast back to its original glory, and I'm in love all over again.
Now, was it authenticity the goal, or did you make deliberate changes so the bike almost became a character in the film itself?
Well, authenticity was not just a goal, Pyro, but a must. To the bikers of that era, motorcycles were a way of life and freedom after the war, which does make these machines standalone characters in the film.
Every great bike has a story. Is there one detail on the Z9 that most people won't notice, but means something more important to you?
Let me think. For me, I noticed every detail of this motorcycle. It's like looking at a beautiful, sexy woman and falling for her every time you look at her and ride her.
Well done, you. We'll wait for the commentary to come in from that. Loving it. Okay, mate. Look, you've ridden and worked around motorcycles and machines for decades. What emotion do you want the audience to feel the first time they see the Kawasaki on screen?
Man, I would say they would have to be the sound from the Kwaka's twin-cam motor and the unmistakable harmonic symphony from the machine's 4-in-1 exhaust pipes. It will leave them breathless.
Fantastic, mate. I've got a stirring under the bat belt just thinking about that. John the Revelator is inspired by a true story and set around Kuranda in Far North Queensland. Now, without giving too much away, what's the heart of the film?
I have to say the heart of the film is set in 1973 around Kuranda's unsolved train robbery. But the real heart of the film is John's dying love for Shai-Ho.
Motorcycles are central to the story. Why were bikes essential to telling this particular story rather than just being props?
Well, these motorcycles, particularly the Kwaka 9, were part of the biker culture for that era here in Oz. These bikes brought freedom and a personal identification to the bikers of their day. Riding the powerful motorcycles was a large part of their code and their way of life.
Right, you said this project celebrates the landscape and the people of Far North Queensland. What do you think audiences around Australia will discover about Far North Queensland in this movie?
As I intend to showcase as many landscapes as I can in the Far North pertaining to the story, I will showcase many of the hidden treasures I've found here. Treasures not only with the majestic scenery, but incredible structures and forgotten relics of our past.
And as the great band AC/DC once said, it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll.
If you want a sausage roll.
Exactly, if you want a sausage roll. But independent Australian filmmaking can be just as brutal. What has been the most challenging part of getting John the Revelator from script to screen?
Well, storytelling, script writing and all the development of a project comes easy for me, Pyro. But the real challenge is always raising the money for the budget to bring these Australian stories to life and to the screen.
Unbelievable. And that would absolutely be quite difficult, I'd imagine. Look, you've written, directed, produced and coordinated action. When you're wearing that many hats, what role do you enjoy the most?
My passion, first and foremost, is always the story. Ever since I was very young and growing up poor in the outback of Australia, I naturally developed a creative mind as a storyteller. So as my career in film quickly developed, so did my creative mind as a writer.
Okay. Looking at modern filmmaking technology today versus when you first started in the 80s, what excites you the most about where cinema is heading?
Well, now with the introduction of AI, Pyro, it is now quickly changing the way we make films. Smaller, high-definition digital cameras versus the old 35mm Panavision cameras. It's no doubt making it easier for the new era of filmmakers to bring their stories to life. As a filmmaker today, you have to move forward and work with new technology, but find that balance between human interaction. Modern technology and AI is the key.
Probably a real key question, mate, and it's probably a bit early in the day, but when people leave the cinema after seeing John the Revelator and are watching the Kawasaki disappear into the distance, what do you hope they're going to be talking about on the drive home?
Retribution.
Retribution. Holy moly. Serious business.
Yeah.
Now, you're not getting out of this too early. I've got a couple of quick fire questions that I didn't tell you about. Right, here we go. Quick fire questions. Daniel Donai, favourite bike movie of all time? Go.
That's easy. Australia's 1974 biker action drama, Stone.
Yeah, baby, you bet it is.
Baby.
Your favourite Hollywood set that you've worked on?
I'd have to say Eraser and Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. They're my two favourites.
Yeah, I reckon that Mad Max would have just been huge. Carburetor or fuel injected?
Okay, well, I do like the old carbies, but fuel injection takes the cake.
Yeah, that. One actor you'd still like to direct?
That's an easy one. Again, there are two. George Clooney, my friend, and Charlize Theron.
Okay, one word to describe John the Revelator?
Breathtaking man.
Breathtaking man. And the last one, if we got into the vehicle, your car today, what tunes, if we jumped in your car now, what's playing in your vehicle?
John the Revelator.
John the Revelator, that's been stuck in my head since I first caught up with you in Mariba. That's just been drilled into my head. So John the Revelator. Daniel Donai, we really appreciate you coming on today, mate, and having a yarn to us on behind the driving wheel. And mate, thank you very much, and just wishing you all the best. We know it's going to be huge, so keep an eye out for that, folks. John the Revelator with Daniel Donai at the driving wheel right there. Thanks again for joining us. Thanks for Tough Tyres. How good are those guys? And look, we'll talk to you next episode. Thanks again.
Thanks, PJ. Got a wild tale from your time behind the wheel? We want to hear it. Drop a line to the producer, Peter Jackson, at peter.jackson@sca.com.au, and you could be featured on the show, sharing your yarns with the whole of FNQ. So buckle up, hit the road, and don't forget, life's always better behind the driving wheel.